Now, you're a busy guy when you rush around, and I thought I had the mousse for my hair, and I grabbed my shaving cream, lathered it up, threw it in the hair, and my head was on fire. Thankfully, we're here for the video. So let's start with the introductions. My name is Jay. I'm the owner of sectioningconsulting.com. We work with clients all around the country, have so for 24 years this summer, long enough for me to become absent-minded. So today we're going to talk about emergency housing vouchers and emergency housing assistance, and we're going to talk about federal definitions, what's required, and the many different elements. Now, for those of you that have heard different things, forget about what you know. Most ordinary people that are searching around Google aren't going to find very direct answers to this kind of information. And emergency housing vouchers are not, and I want to repeat this, they are not issued by the housing authority. That was pre-pandemic. During the pandemic, there was federal funding also issued for emergency housing vouchers. So let's make a distinction here. Emergency housing vouchers have always existed. Now, they were a different, let's call it type 2 issue during the pandemic. And in some cases, those type of vouchers still may be available. There were about 70,000 to the pandemic. Now, the thing I want to make a distinction on is the fact that these housing vouchers and housing assistance, though the pandemic stuff is gone, there still has special use vouchers, which are emergency housing vouchers. Now, to better understand this, you guys don't want to save this video or like it, because we're going to get into a lot of definitions and you're going to want to do your own research. And the reason I suggest that is because it's going to give you a better idea. So what I'm going to do is kind of connect you with the technical terms, which you would naturally look for or search for. And this is going to be able to help you identify the stuff that they kind of hide. And part of the planning of vouchers and their program guides, policies, and procedures, they give it all very unique and clever names. That way, when you're searching, you never really truly get the truth. So today's about revealing that truth. It's also about dispelling rumors and, of course, all the great advice people give and for friends, family, and neighbors. So, as a definition, when you're dealing with emergency housing vouchers, again, they're not issued by the housing authority. They're issued by the Continuum of Care program. So let me tell you what that really is. This is a notation point. The Continuum of Care is better known as CoC. It is designed to assist individuals, including unoccupied youth that may be aging out of foster care, that are experiencing homelessness or going to be imminently homeless or being averaged out under rent. In other words, you can no longer afford your rent, and there's a great potential that you may become homeless. Now, I want you guys first to reserve your opinions and your concepts about what you believe homelessness is. We all have the eyewitness news version of it. You know, you see somebody on the bridge smoking crack or drinking a beer, or maybe you just see an ordinary homeless person. It does not need to meet that category, okay? That's an extreme example. That's glorification by news. The vast majority of homeless people or first-timers that incidentally something's happened, your whole house became destabilized, maybe you didn't plan for retirement, and of course, you may be in a shelter, you may be living in a car, or you may be surfing couches from grandma's house to your aunt's. Look, if you don't have a lease in your name, you don't have a mortgage to a home, then you're homeless. Okay, I don't care how you put it, you're homeless. Kind of like teens when they leave mom and dad's house, staying with friends and all that. If you're on that lease, buddy, there is no proof otherwise that you have any legitimate place to stay. You are homeless, or you're imminently homeless. So again, this is designed to help individuals for transitional and permanent housing. Permanent housing, and they use that lovely word, but really means voucher. A voucher to get you in permanent housing. So why all the clever deceptions and technical terms? Well, that's because it's just like the old days with religion. Why do you think they didn't have a Bible back in the early days, and they only had pictures on windows in churches? Because if you teach everybody everything, then everybody will want it. It's best controlled when you don't teach the populace everything. And also, it makes it supremely difficult for you to be able to research when you don't actually know all the clever names they use in order to describe these programs and their rules. All you can find is basically some general information across the internet. All right, now that I've got that thing out of my throat, and I got to tell you, my head is still on fire from the shaving cream. So this is like having peppermint blown in your hair. Though I've washed it out, I still feel it really good. All right, so that's Continuum of Care and CoC Program. Make a notation, look it up, and you look at the different ideas. Now, it's important to understand, don't let your mind go run wild with that. Again, a lot of people see things and they think it's just written in stone, that they're only going to deal with people that are the most hardcore. You're talking about Sally that just took a hit off the meth pipe. She's only got one flip-flop. She's strolling down the freeway and she's hooking at the same time. You don't need to be that kind of homeless, okay? Let's just be honest here. And if those of you that are struggling with your pride or humility, look, drop it. If you need housing, you need housing. If this is a way to get to that and get it quickly, then drop all the jazz, whether you're young or old. Okay, nobody's got time for that. If you want to be big and bad later and represent and all that good jazz, do it later. Okay, get what you need now. So moving on from Continuum of Care program, and what its description is, that is a program issued by the feds. Now the feds roll it down to local organizations to administrate these vouchers under different subtypes or vouchers and programs. And so you'll be basically dealing with a system called Coordinated Entry System, or CE, CES, or BOSS. And that would be the Coordinated Entry or Entry System. Why would you want to know that? Why would that even matter? How does that actually fix your emergency problem and get in your house? Why is all this talk going to help you? It's simple. If you understand what CES is, then it means it'll lead you right to the manuals in which they write and prescribe both the questions and answers to everything. But let's go a little bit deeper, because that's only going to give you the broad range of what you need and how you should answer in order to get emergency housing vouchers. So knowledge is power here, guys. So again, Coordinated Entry System, CES. Look that up. I'm going to take a hit of my energy drink because I can't afford to do drugs, and nor would I want to. I thought I'd just pass off an awful joke real quick. All right. Moving on from that. You get into a coordinated entry point or assessment center, or you make the phone call to coordinated entry. And I'm not talking about you guys calling 311 and 211 and talking to the nutcases there. And let me be clear. Coordinated entry in a lot of states are trying to push it into a situation where you have to dial 211. Now, we've all talked to those jokers at 211, right? You call them, and what do they have? They got a 98-year-old behind a keyboard, and he's going to look up some irrelevant numbers that go nowhere to people that will never answer the phone and send you twirling in circles and not solve a fucking thing. In other words, after you get off the phone and you probably said a few profanities and thrown your arms up, that's what you're going to get. Now, I know at least one person personally that we've contracted that's a former employee at 211, so I know how that works. Let me give you what a real description of 211 is. This is a person that's sitting behind a keyboard that goes on Google and does a search for you. That is all 211 is. It don't connect you with jazz. And imagine they're giving out the same number to 50 million people that don't know nothing. That means they brung that same assistance line 100,000 times before noon. That means you're likely going to get an angry 21-year-old that just went from her McDonald's job to work in the 211 line and then now is working at that coordinated entry. 211 is not the answer. Rarely is. So we're going to move on to the next part. So SPDAT, S-P-D-A-T. Again, SPDAT, Service Prioritization Assistance Tool. What is that? That is the manual. That is the weapon in which they read and administrate to you. So instead of you putting ink to an application, this system, in order to get emergency housing vouchers, some of the other things that they're offering, they're going to assess. In other words, you don't answer questions on a paper. You're going to answer them verbally. And if you don't give them the answers they want, you don't get anything. And if each answer has a certain number of points tied to it, so with the service prioritization tool, which means they figured out a way to score each answer you give, and the more answers you get right for higher values means you get basically more points. And of course, the algorithm or program kicks out a voucher. So again, HMIS, you're going to want to look that up, guys, and you're going to look it up for your local county. So how would you do that? You would say if you lived in Memphis, Tennessee, and then you would type in SPDAT. Once you have that, then all you're looking for is coordinated entry center or location. So again, you're going to want to rewind the video because there's more to this. We're going to go a little bit deeper. So as you're dealing with SPDAT or the BOSS system, which is a scoring metric and manual that prioritizes people based on answers and the points they get, that system is entered into another system, which is a program algorithm, and that is called the Homeless Management Information System, better known as HMIS. Again, that's HMIS. Why is that important? Because if you can get the program manual for HMIS, which is the Homeless Information Management System, it's the very algorithm that determines your answers. It determines what you're going to get. Having both SPDAT and HIMS allows you pretty much, you read both of those, you know as much as the person that are dealing with you. Now that's power. When you can sit across a worker and you know more than they do, you know every element of their system. Now, I'm not telling you this, guys, and for the fact of you to go out there and commit fraud, lie, cheat, and steal. But let's be honest. I can be like every other YouTube channel out here that doesn't have a fucking any experience with this and talk about how to bring a pizza to a housing authority or how to write Mickey Mouse books about guides to Section 8, or you can get it from a real consultant like me. The difference is we can get technical where these other people, one minute they're a party clown for a children's party, the next day they're master experts at fidget spinners, and today they're going to give out advice on Section 8. But they've never read any legislation, policy, procedure, data manuals, or administrative plans, and so their advice is good as used toilet paper. So now we see the 4 core elements. So let's bring all this together into what you need for emergency housing. Let me flip the page. Well, I've been one of those kind of mornings. Again, my hair is on fire from rubbing shaving cream in there. Maybe I'll be like my mother and be very forgetful. And it seems like I'm going that direction. Let's hope I can keep it all together long enough to finish my career out. All right. So we have 3 tiers of things you're going to be able to attempt to score for through taking through the assessment through SPDAT that's entered into HMIS. And that's going to be the Emergency Housing Voucher. And we're not talking about pandemic time vouchers, the 70,000 vouchers for the pandemic. We're talking about the vouchers that have always existed. Okay, one way or another, special use. Second to that, you're going to be dealing with permanent supportive housing. And let's read a federal definition on that so you guys are very crystal clear about what it is. It's actually quite a worthy voucher. I've talked against it a lot in the past, but I've seen a lot of fundamental changes to it. Permanent supportive housing is permanent housing in which housing assistance, e.g. long-term leasing, rental assistance, supportive services are provided to assist households with at least one member, adult or child, with a disability in achieving housing. You know what that sounds a lot like if you were dealing with a housing authority? Section 811 and Section 202. You see, but they've changed when you take federal money and you run it through CES, a non-housing authority, and it's a nonprofit doing it. They rename it to make it seem like it's less than what it is, but it's the same flipping thing. Isn't that clever that we're running 2 different systems? One that most know of, if you've ever watched TV since 1980, and then a secondary system that's run basically for the homeless. It started with you had to be hardcore homeless. You know what I'm saying? And you're out there, one flip-flop on the highway, you're turning tricks, smoking crack, and everything else, and you might be able to get it as a hardcore homeless person. But as time has evolved, this program has been more designed to afford those that are recently normally ran into a big crisis in life, and now you're about to become homeless. And again, I don't want everybody to identify everybody as a prostitute and a crackhead. I use those as string examples because I have to find a way to keep you guys' attention. Because not everybody wants to hear the technicals, right? So that voucher for permanent supportive housing only requires that a person from the ages of day 0 being born all the way to 500 years old, that one person can prove they have a disability. And let's talk about that disability, because a lot of you believe the only way to be qualified or known as being disabled is that you have a disability check. That is incorrect. The Social Security Administration, when you ask the government for cash and a check, you got to go see the judge, attorneys, lawyers, this and that. It takes years and years. HUD's a different federal agency. Its standard, what it perceives to be a disability, is generally something you're affected by that's going to affect your seeing, hearing, the way you speak, your quality of life, whether you're taking showers, your medication, whether you're responsible, all kinds of things. And so the standard's much lower to be considered disabled. Many of my clients I talk to, because of the high sense of pride, they don't even believe they have a disability when in fact they've got 4 blown up discs. They can barely walk. They've got to get airlift just to get them down the stairs, but they believe that they're a good Christian woman and they just simply have no problems. They're breathing fresh air and they can run a marathon. I battle pride more than anything in most cases, because people don't want to admit they have any problem. I've had people in wheelchairs, oh, I'm just fine. I don't have any disabilities. Well, no, you really do. You have 2. One, you have no legs, and B, that, possibly you're delusional. How are you rolling around in a wheelchair and you think you don't have a disability? Now, I understand everybody wants to have lots of ability, but let's be honest here. And you want housing? Well, let me tell you this is not funny. It's actually quite sad. And it's sad, but also at the same time, it's not sad. And so I'm going to tell you a story about a family that contacted my office. They said, hey, Jay, we'd get all the way through it, and we discussed all that would be required to get through all this, going through manuals, making sure we have the right answers, this and that. And they came to the very end, and they said, well, my Christian beliefs just won't allow me to be on the fence about things. There's no way that I can be persuasive in the way that I answer. Now, mind you, I never asked them to break the law, lie, cheat, or steal, okay? But they just believed that it seemed a bit shady that I would use such clever ways to be able to afford them housing and a voucher. And I said, okay. And in the back of my mind, I said, you know what? They'll probably call back in about a month once they realize that ain't going to work out. Their pride of religion. Do you know the first thing out of that woman's mouth when she called me a month later? She was very smart about how she said it. She goes, Jesus forgives. I said, I bet he does when your ass is on the sidewalk. You see the point? She wasn't going to admit any guilt or she was willing to move on. She just simply stated that Jesus forgives. So she was prepared to do whatever the hell it took. Look, sidewalk's a lonely place with one flip-flop. Nobody wants to be out there with one flip-flop. No, you don't. You shower once a month, you're eating out of a trash can, or maybe you're sitting in a shelter with people blowing COVID up in your face. And if you've ever been to a shelter, really, there's what I call foot and booty. When people are hardcore homeless, let me tell you something. I've seen everything from underwear rotting off of people as they get into showers to toes falling off from gangrene. The smell that's obscene, and so are the attitudes. And that's not minding the fact that you're around people that could be actively high, delusional, and it takes nothing for them to pull out a steak knife and just simply stab your ass. Now, is it really that dangerous? For women, probably not, but for men, it's pretty rough. And so unless you're looking to become an expert at a new thing and take a new adventure, then I would take my advice. Not a bunch of videos of tips and tricks. That's clownery. If you want circus clown videos, there's lots of those. People that want to make a copper penny will talk about any shit they can. Half of them copy my channel, that being that it's been around longer, it's bigger than any of them, and to the service of their self, regardless of the bad information and the people that actually end up damaging their lives because they're giving out frivolous information. We have to be real. If I sugarcoat everything for all of you, then how can you ever trust a single word out of my mouth? So that's the point, is to actually show you what you need to know. Otherwise, I might as well just lie. I might as well just be a used car salesman. And to be honest with you, most of you are already at a point where in life where it's gotten so bad that you pretty much are now an expert at reading bullshit. Look in my eyes and ask yourself a question. If I'm telling you these things and you're that highly perceptive of what bullshit is, do you believe that I'm sitting here just telling you a story? My advice to many of you that are seeking housing is first explore your options. If you're not best served by your ability to find expedite, go through the manual, understand the questions, get yourself into the system, contact CES and get through it, then maybe you want to reach out to a company like mine, because I have made a career of fast tracking people through systems. Does that mean that I have a magic power to rainbow you through and get you a voucher 30 days flat? No, we need to have some realistic expectations, but it sure is the shit better than you spending the next 10 or 15 years or standing and living in homeless shelters or sleeping in your car. Now, but I also want to make sure you guys understand that I'm not implying that every case goes smoothly. Sometimes cases drag on 8 months, but 8 months is a small price for you trying to figure this out on your own. And just a bit of information I've given today regarding all the different programs and other things they don't want you to know. It's quite a bit. I got to tell you, that dryer buzzing there, that's a wonderful thing. All right, guys. So let's move on. Permanent supportive housing, those with disabilities from age 1 all the way up to 99 or however old. Okay, qualify. Rapid rehousing is a solution. Let's talk about the federal definition of rapid rehousing. Rapid rehousing is an intervention that is a housing first approach on the McKinney-Beano Act. It is a critical part of the community effectiveness and homeless crisis response. What is a homeless crisis? It's not homeless people under the bridge. It's not homeless people at the shelter. A crisis means Mom, Sally, and Bob have been living in a house, and all of a sudden they run out of money. Things have happened. They didn't plan very well, or they didn't have a lot of savings, and now they face the potential of being evicted. You guys have got to understand what federal definition of homeless is. And for many of you, it means this is your first contact, that you're coming so close to it that it could happen. It doesn't mean that you're under the bridge in a homeless shelter. So I need y'all to step back and really think about that. Now, a lot of you running down the housing authority, you think, oh, well, shit, it's just like McDonald's. I'll just drive through the window and they'll print me out a hot voucher and I can just roll the car off. Or maybe you're walking down the sidewalk, one flip-flop, and you believe you can go just you think your hard luck story is going to buy you jack at the housing authority. Housing authorities are for vouchers that could take anywhere from 6 months, years, or even decades. CoC, CES, and all the other processes I've discussed, in most cases, with the exception to certain states, can likely be done between 30 days, and that's a really sharp number there, and up to 90 days. And if you're in a state like California, Florida, and New York, New Jersey, or Massachusetts, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. But look, you're now languishing for years. You're certainly not. So, shall we approach this in a manner where we're going to educate ourselves and move in the smartest way? Are we going to do this in an intelligent way? Or are we going to go out there and we're going to present ourselves as a victim in a sob story? Because I got to be honest with you. Whether you deal with the housing authority or CoC, nobody cares whether you live or die. They don't care if you eat. They don't care if you're sleeping in the bushes. And to be honest with you, most of these workers are paid very little, so they really don't give a shit about what you're telling them. And you're going to find a lack of empathy. It's going to be a culture shock for you. So the only way and the best way to address this system is to completely own it. Owning it means you understand all their policies, procedures, and rules. And if you're going to participate in a rigged game, then you might as well play to win. Now, again, I want to express, I'm not asking anybody to break the law, lie, cheat, or steal. But if you're going to play a rigged game, then what the hell is the point if you're going to play to lose? Or if your morals or your ethics or your Christian nature is going to block you and put your ass on the sidewalk. Because I'm pretty sure whether it's Buddha or Jesus, he certainly didn't want to see you on this planet so you could stroll around in one flip-flop and beg for food stamps and hang out the food bank and collect a bunch of food you can't even fucking cook because you don't have a power supply. You don't want to do that. Think about yourself collecting change at the light. Everybody you see at that light that's high and drunk and everything else, they were ordinary people at one time. You expose yourself to the street long enough. If you're genetic, somewhere in that genetic family of yours, you had a drug addict and you go out there and you challenge that DNA you've got, you got a 50-50 chance. The likelihood is if you said one day, oh, well, what the hell? Let me just take a little pull from that meth pipe. That could ruin you. For most people, I'm not going to recommend that you get involved in homelessness. That's how it all starts. Let me tell you something. The other day I was on Tomball Highway. This little girl looked like she was in college when actually she was a prostitute. And as much as I know, I didn't even realize it until after I had picked her up and dropped her off, that she literally found a way to get me to pick her up and drop her off to John's house. She was dressed real nice. So prostitutes have changed the game. They make themselves look like one anymore. They make themselves look like young college students. In fact, the lady was 32. I didn't realize when she did the spill on, oh, well, I've got no money, no food, and this and that. I'd heard that before. And what did I most hear that spill before? From regular prostitutes. How do I know that? Who do you think calls my office all the time? I'm not here to judge them. I don't care what they do. They're here to get a service and for me to provide it. But what I'm telling you guys is don't tempt fate. I don't care if you've been sober and never touched a drug in your life. If I put enough pressure, stress, strain, and to make you, and you end up in a situation where you no longer give a shit. It only takes one tribe, a crack pipe, and all that other stuff going on And then you could end up permanently out there and you could be lost to your own cause. So it only takes minutes for you to not have enough money, get evicted, to be put on the street. It could take years for me to drag your ass out of that situation for you to completely recover. Minutes to get there, years to recover from it. It's not a joke, guys. So now that I preached, lectured, and put shaving cream in my hair and washed it back out and made this video, little joke there. I'm going to recommend that you guys do your research. If you have complex mental health issues, if you've got too much going on, you're overwhelmed, the pressures become so great that you generally are just trying to ignore your situation and it's eventually going to implode and you feel like you can't deal with it, reach out to my office, okay? We have short appointments that cost very little. Discuss your options. If you want to move forward from there, we can do casework, get you through the system, get you the right manuals, help you pull your shit together just long enough to get it. What I don't guarantee is, one, I don't guarantee that you're going to make all the right choices, even if you get this. So don't bother with this, guys, unless this is your last option. My advice to most of you is first approach the system, do your research. If everything that you're doing yields you nothing, then maybe you should try and have somebody else that actually has been doing this 20 years help you with it, okay? There's a difference between wandering around in the dark and having somebody expedite it. But I want to be very clear about something. We live in an Amazon world. An Amazon world means we expect everything now. We don't want to do anything part. This is going to be a gigantic pain in the ass. It's going to require as much from you as it does of me and our office and our staff. Participation is absolutely required. And if you're not going to put the effort into it and you're a delusional soccer mom that just now been put on the street and you have these flights of fancy thinking that I'm here to entertain you and to serve you, that your money has somehow indentured me to pleasure you, then you're out your mind. Casework through our office and any type of consulting is designed to help you. I'm not an entertainer. I'm not here to please. Okay? I'm here to provide a service, consult you, and help you through casework. Don't ever come me under the delusion that I'm here to entertain you, because I will terminate that case. I don't have time for that uppity kind of stuff. You want that kind of treatment, put on your glass slippers, go down to fucking Macy's. I don't have time for people that are uppity. This is for real people in real situations that are willing to do what is necessary and not be lazy and participate. If you cannot pick up a pen about an application, you're not willing to read or do anything to help yourself, and your goal is to drown, then you'll do it alone. So I hate to be tough, but this is the kind of reality we must address, because otherwise you're going to go through all of this and you're going to think that somehow you're running something, but you're not. You're going to deal with these people and you're going to think, oh, well, they owe me something. And you're going to get waylaid with it. And you're going to learn a new lesson about life, that you're no longer important and you don't matter to these people. I'm the only thing in between that and there. So the difference to be is I treat you with a lot more respect than those people ever will. All right, let me address some of these comments. Sure, that got kind of dark today, but I got to tell you guys, between the power outage killing my video yesterday, accidentally rubbing shaving cream in a hurry in my hair, and everything else going on, it's been a tough couple of days. And of course, they did a software update to my software yesterday for booking, and it locked me out for the whole day, which is really hard to work with clients when you can't do that. Those guys that own the booking software, they love to drive me crazy. So I was having panic attacks, because I know with my clients, if they pay one red penny, one red nickel, and you call 1 minute late, then scams and fraud. You know, people these days, they think they've been robbed before the appointment even starts. You see all the kind of crazy I've got to deal with people because they're so skeptical of everything. For me to be able to maintain over 1,500 videos and probably 15 years on YouTube, talk for an hour straight without reading a single thing off a piece of paper, tell you I'm an expert. I don't need to guess at it. I know I am. I don't speak before legal aid societies, counsel entire departments for counselors and caseworkers if I was a complete idiot just giving out tips and tricks. I don't write silly little books about the secret guide to Section 8. Because let me tell you something, that man that wrote that book probably never did a damn thing for anybody that's homeless. But he's definitely enriching himself with a bunch of useless fucking information. I've read that shit. It's a joke. Let me just be up front, but I'm not going to name him or his book. Can't hate. We live in a capitalist world. Make a nickel. Make the nickel off the back of homeless people. Really? The reason I charge for services so I don't have to actually provide them under a bridge with you. Does that make sense? Nobody asked you to go to work and not get paid. Why shouldn't I? And I've kept the same prices for 20 years. It's almost laughable what I charge. But it is what it's maintained. That somehow is the only way to maintain it. It's just like your lawyer. You don't want to pay him $1 an hour because you'll get $1 defense, right? Anyways, moving on from there. Christy Gannon says housing. And she goes on to say, Scott, this is the hearing housing, not handcuffs. Is so bad. Since 2008 crashed, 2018, and in 2024. Crystal, you truly an angel. I don't know. That's yet to be seen. But I'll tell you one thing. After doing this much over this many years, when I do take my last breath, I won't regret the life I've lived, whether I've dealt with clients and people or the cats that I continue to rescue. And for those who've been around long enough, you'll know I rescue cats, and I've got a bunch of them. JW, can you explain the voucher payment breakdown? I'm confused about what this is calculated. JW, that will be covered in another video because it's quite an expansive topic. There's roughly 200 pages under federal rules on that, and then we'll need to subdivide that out to the type of program. So in other words, in order to give you an exact answer to that, we would have to figure out specifically what program. So there's a lot of different things that can go into that. Well, guys, I've enjoyed talking with you today, and I put everything that's relevant and important in the description of the video. My office and the services we offer are as a last measure. You've tried everything and yielded nothing. You're lost. You can't handle it anymore. And there's no other option. That and only then will it be appropriate. I'm not a first option for people. Okay. You still can call 211. You can call 311. You can call the housing authority and hope they answer. You can call HUD and hope that they give you more than a couple of minutes, or you can go down to a local church and see what happens there. If you've exhausted all those possibilities and all your efforts have yielded you nothing, then give my office a call. Okay. Well, guys, I've enjoyed talking with you about emergency housing vouchers. You now understand the totality of the system, the different types of things you're looking for online, the types of manuals you need to approach, and of course, you'll need CoC locations for coordinated entry system, and you'll be able to reach out to them for an assessment. Do keep in mind when you do the assessment, you get one shot per year. In other words, if you give a bunch of silly answers or disqualify yourself, or you don't truly understand what you're doing, then what will happen is they will not give you anything but probably a coupon for a cheeseburger and a referral to the food bank. And then they're not going to allow you to change those answers or call back again for a year. So be very certain about yourself before you pick up that phone. 211 is never a great option with this. Look, if you want somebody to help you, you don't call the circus clown line. Just don't do it. But if you don't believe me, please do call 211 and 311 to see how far they get you, okay? Because that's supposed to be the new thing, the new wave of we're going to get emergency housing. No, you won't. You'll just get a few random numbers that nobody's going to answer. I've enjoyed talking with you, and if I didn't reach all your questions, I apologize. There's a lot more stuff being in the live video being asked than most of you can see. Just keep in mind that while it may only look like a few comments on your end, there's actually a lot on my end. I try to address as many as I can. So I'm going to attempt today around 4:30 p.m. Central Standard or Texas time to make an additional video. It may be covering an open waiting list, or it may be covering a spicy topic where we may have a housing authority that has been raided or indicted at a federal level for fraud and other things. We'll just have to see. And again, it always comes down to if I have enough time. So check back around 4:30 Central Standard Time. We'll see what happens. Otherwise, we will see you between the range of 9:30 and 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time tomorrow. Okay? Enjoy. Bye-bye.